Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Welcome, Spellback is set. We're going to bring you along for the Simulationist podcast. Hello, everybody. My name is Josh Levin. With me, as always, is Ryan Kirkby.
Co-host. I'm going to call at least extraordinaire tonight.
Self-proclaimed, self-described extraordinaire.
But not, without good reason. I think I'm doing pretty good, and I had to think about it. I'm not just boasting here. I had to consciously sit myself down for a second and say, hey, can you call yourself extraordinaire? I think I can.
Search deep inside your soul. Am I truly awesome?
Do I have extraordinary co-hosting capabilities within myself? I'm bringing that to the table tonight. I'm doing what I can.
I'll mention the number of the iteration today is 98.
We are one away from getting Gretzky going here.
Yeah, for some reason.
Hey, because 99 is Gretzky no matter where you are.
Yeah, it could be Agent 99 or 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
Hey, let's admit this. Agent 99 was very good. She kept Maxwell Smart from probably killing himself about 3 times a season, but she's no Gretzky.
All right, I'll give Gretzky that. Okay, yeah. I'll grudgingly admit that Gretzky is better better than a fictional character. Also, with the date that we're recording this is the 20th of July, 2014. That's the year that we're recording this. So hello to all the people in the future who are listening. I almost said hello future people. I stole that from another podcast.
So the question is then, it's like, how far in the future are they listening to us? Could they say, it's like, wow, this is being recorded in 2014. I'm listening to this in 4102. That's a backwards date. This must mean something.
Yes, and if you are that person, boo.
If you're my descendant, well, thank you for showing an interest in me, That's just kind of nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, back in 2014, what we talked about was pretty much video games and nerd stuff.
So let's see, wait, if they're listening to us then potentially 2,000 years roughly in the future, and every 10 years, we'll say, puts out a new edition, as they could be at, oh my, that's a huge edition for D&D.
Are you going to do the math, or just say it's big?
Well, it'd be,
it's
if
big.
It's 2,000 divided by 10, that's 200. They'd be on 205th edition D&D.
205. Wow.
Yeah, that's why I staggered before I even said the number out loud. That's a big edition, man.
And for the people listening in the present...
I hope they finally got balance figured out by then.
I was going to say, thank you for listening in the present, and we love having you here, and I hope that you'll send us lots of cool feedback.
Well, at least the contemporary present. I mean, they are still in the future.
That's true. They're in the near future.
Would it be okay if we call them all just, chrononauts?
Chrononauts? Well,
they're
okay.
in the future, and we're broadcasting to them from the past. They're chrononauts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have names for our listeners. A lot of podcasts like to name their listeners.
Simulates?
Simulationists. I don't know.
Well, that's the name of the podcast. That's why I went Simulates.
Yeah, but podcasts or even newspapers like The Colonist, Times Colonist, The Colonist newspaper was a newspaper for colonists, right? Anyways, sorry.
Simuoles?
Simuoles? If they want to name themselves, I think we should just let them. I remember there's yet another podcast. I should name the podcast as I steal from them blatantly, but NPC Cast was asking for feedback, so I wrote them a Twitter, and it was... I just typed out the letter E all in capitals. Yeah, I know.
Nice.
yeah, so I'll shout them out, NPC Cast. Also shout out Major Spoilers since I stole the Hello Future. But they always say, Hello Future people.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
And that's from
Futurama.
Yes.
So we're stealing everything tonight, but that's okay.
Futurama, took that from something like, I don't know what.
From all sorts of sources,
anyway.
where a person winds up in the future.
So we should talk about what things are going on. Let me see.
Well, it's another week, which means it's another week closer to the official release of 5th edition. That's always that.
Oh yeah. I picked up the physical, like the box with 2 little booklets in it, the starter set.
Now I find that a little ironic because when we were talking about this a few iterations ago, I was thinking about picking it up, and you said you'd probably skip it.
I know I did, and then I went to the gaming store. It was like $25, and I was like, if I put that on my credit card, I don't have to pay that for like years. So, yeah.
And that's why people are listening to us from the year 4102. It's like, how did this mountain of debt accrue? Why are we all paying for it? It started with a $25 purchase in mid-2014.
Yeah.
Compound interest. It'll get you eventually.
Yeah, well, I figure by then I will pay off that'll be my final credit card payment, and I'll
in 4102. The digital equivalent of your mental state, Cyber Josh pays off the last bill.
It's funny though, like I was disappointed for a few seconds because it's a big box. It's probably 2 inches tall, like if you sit flat on the table.
Like the old box sets that used to come out there.
Yeah,
towards that.
If you play D&D, you have.
Well, if you're a bit of an old grognard, you'll probably know the size for these.
But inside there's a piece of cardboard that basically holds up the books on top of it, so more than half of the box is just air. And at first I was like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. But then I was thinking, well, no, because I'm going to want to play this game and add things to it, basically. And I think that's what they did with a lot of the old box sets, is you really should leave a bit of space in there because players are going to want to put their notes and their character sheets. And
that, and especially if you're dealing with a box set that has dice in there, if you fill it up as much as you can, it's going to, rip up the pages if it's too full.
Yeah, that's true. The dice were in a little, plastic sealed, one of those bags.
A dime bag. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but okay. It doesn't reseal. It's not the re-zippable kind.
Okay.
But,
in that case, just a nickel bag? It's half the price?
Okay. But yeah, I suppose, if you jammed it full of paper and stuff, the dice would sort of, the D4 would poke through, would make a little dent in the top of the box, in the cover. Something like that. So you need a little bit of that space.
Plus, let's face it, nobody gets angry when they open up a bag of chips and it's halfway full of air, because contents have settled during shipping. So.
Well, I have seen people get angry about that, but I don't think.
Yeah, I'm afraid we've all lost the right to get angry at that by now. It's not something new.
No, that's true. But no, I was just saying that. That was my thought process. Gee, it feels kind of empty. But then I was like, oh no, I need this space because I'm gonna. Before long, it's gonna be like, this box is not big enough. I can't even get the lid closed.
There you go.
But that's what elastic bands are for, right? So.
Exactly, man. Nice. And so, is everything inside being, to your liking? Is it very well written?
Well, I have no complaints yet. I mean, I miss the way skills worked in 3.5. I don't think that's ever coming back, with this, where you have to spend ranks and half rank this, half rank that.
I think they'll put out a splat book for that. Just to, it's like, hey, you want lots of skills, you want little, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, instead of just whole in. Yeah, doesn't have to be in for a penny, in for a pound anymore. We got a splat book. All it's going to cost you is $30.
Yeah, but one of the things I noticed was that monsters are by type again. Do you remember in 4th edition they divided types up a little bit differently? Do you remember that?
A little bit. I browsed 4th edition, looked at it and said, this is not really for me, and then I went elsewhere.
Okay, because 3rd edition had aberration, monstrous humanoid, giant, ooze, shape changer.
I still say giant should have been a subtype. They should have moved to a subtype same as shape changer.
Well, okay, it looks like giant and shape changer are back.
Well, from what I've seen, though, 5th edition is planning on making giants very distinct from large humanoids. Yeah. So you should be able to determine a medium-sized giant from a large humanoid and be able to say, yeah, I know which one's which. Yeah. And if they can do that, then I remove my qualm about giant should being a subtype.
Well, yeah, either way. And it doesn't really matter to me because I kind of do things my own way anyways. So, but that was kind of cool. And they have 9 alignments again. I don't know, for some reason
people were really upset with the lack of variety from a linear system of lawful good, good, neutral, evil, chaotic evil.
Yeah, but as usual, like at the time when that first came out in 4th edition, I was like, basically I re-headcanoned it to be like, okay, well, chaotic good and neutral good basically combine forces, and you can be either one, but you're basically the same if you're either one of those.
Well, here's the thing. If they had done a bit of fluff, I think it could have worked out very well. Because I remember to the Book of the Nine Hells from 3.5, they had a story about like how the universe was as it was. You had your god-like beings, and then this infinite wave of demons always coming in. And so, the gods eventually get tired of fighting an infinite number of chaotic, evil creatures. And so they come up with like, hey, we'll create something to fight them for all eternity, and it's the devils, which is the reason behind the Blood Wars. The devils are going to have to fight the demons forever. It's in their contract. However, the devils were able to create such a contract that they could get some souls, and steal some of that stuff around. And then the gods come marching. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Those souls were supposed to be for us. And it's like, well, it's in the contract. And the gods learn a very important lesson about evil. Before that, there was no concept of good and evil. There was only law and chaos. And so all of a sudden, the gods that had been side by side in arms suddenly realized he's like lawful evil. I'm lawful good. And so that's where they part out into your grid alignment system.
Oh yeah.
And before that, apparently, it was a linear system. Which was what they originally had for it.
Like
lawful, neutral, and
original D&D.
Chaotic, yeah. And so if they had come up with a concept of the 4th edition takes place in the primordial past of that, where the grid-based system hasn't developed, at least as a concept, and because mentality affects how things are. Because the mentality of good versus evil hasn't approached the same degree. That's why we have a slightly different, linear system of alignment as opposed to the grid. I would have bought that. I would have said, you know what, that's very intriguing. I think they're doing some really good mental things to help show you what it's like, and that's why things are so different right now.
What do you think of this? Like, now, when you mentioned the demons, what if the main bulk of the multiverse is actually that chaotic, the Abyss? Because the Abyss has, 999 layers or something?
Well, the Abyss, they say 666.
666. Okay.
Although it is improperly known.
So what if, basically all the demons... I think this is sort of the case already, but they're already all at war with each other, basically, constantly fighting?
They're fighting each other. They're fighting whoever gets too close to them. That's the nature of demonism.
Yeah, so basically the Blood War is a tiny corner of the larger sort of demon-on-demon war that's always going on. And it's basically the devils sort of hold this bastion of order. They are
the plug that keeps, the known cosmos, which is what we are.
Yeah.
Or at least where the heroes are, from just being completely overridden by demons. Yeah. They are the plug, and that's what the Blood War is, and that's why the angels don't try and ever stop it. And that is from what all I've read for all the fluff text and all that. That's basically what's true about the Great Wheel cosmology. The wheel itself is actually a false construct in and of itself. It's all chaos, except for this one bubble of reality as we know it.
Cool.
And I really dig that concept, and that's why I keep trying to get you to think Great Wheel, why is chaos, in a subset of this Great Wheel of order? You have to believe the wheel actually exists for it to stay that way. If you don't believe in the Great Wheel cosmology, then this pocket of law and order and amongst the sea of eternal chaos breaks down, and all of a sudden, it's not just one area for the demons to get in. They're coming at you from every angle.
Ooh.
Believe in the Great Wheel.
That feels actually kind of Lovecraftian, right? With the the chaotic world intruding on your mind.
Always beating at the doors of reality, waiting for any way to get in.
Yeah. Yes. And sort of the ultimate truth is that things are unordered.
And you are just a tiny little speck of I don't matter in the grander scheme of the cosmos.
Well put. Well said.
That is basically what Lovecraft was trying to get at for a lot of his stuff. Is humanity doesn't matter.
Although one thing I've always enjoyed about Planescape, which I guess we're getting on a Planescape tangent, so
let's bring it in by name officially.
But they always there's always this sort of thing where there's counter narratives. There's that one narrative is like, okay, chaos is everything, chaos is but then somebody else might tell a story sort of equally valid about how law is the ultimate true reality or something like that.
I think that's one of the reasons why so many people loved the game, Planescape Torment, is it really did lead you, it's like, was it the question that they keep asking over again, what can change the nature of a man? And the definitive answer was never given because there technically isn't a definitive answer. The closest you could ever get was belief. Whatever you believe can change the nature of a man will change the nature of you, at least. Mm-hmm. And so that was the concept that ideas shape reality, especially in what is essentially an actual fictional setting where changing your idea will change reality, was so meta deep. It just, sometimes late at night, when all the lights are off just before I go to bed, I'll just sit back and think, whoa.
Because maybe the dreams you're about to have, maybe that's the real reality.
No. My dreams tend to break apart badly.
That's true.
They are weird and fragile things, and I like to think that reality's at least made of sterner stuff than what goes through my head while I'm insane and unconscious.
Yeah, well, the only thing about reality is that for some random reason, events line up cause and effect-wise, and that's why we think that's the real world.
Or it has been postulated that they only line up that way because we cannot mentally handle it working another way.
Well, yeah, and because that wouldn't, that happens, that might be another reality, but yeah, it's imperceptible, it's incomprehensible.
Well, you can break that theory down by saying, well, in that case, eventually we would have come across somebody so insane that they can travel back and forth through time because they're so unhinged. The concept of time doesn't matter to them, and then we could have predicted the future just by what they say because they are time neutral as opposed to time directed like us.
Possibly, except that the mainstream of time for some reason might be restricted, even though it seems like our world, even as lawful and rules-bound as it is,
that's the thing, yeah, a lot of the stuff, if you look...
happen.
Well, if you look at how, reactions occur mathematically, and from a predictable, model environment, you could work it in reverse just as well, with heat transfers operating in different rules and all that. But they don't. They only ever go one way. Why? We'll say it keeps things convenient. The universe seems to like things in a convenient order. Why does physical matter have equivalencies to states of energy and particle waves? Supersymmetry breaking, or it saves math. The universe seems just like saying, well, it kind of saves a lot on the math. I don't know if that's the case or if I'm anthropomorphizing the universe, but it seems to like saving data space. Well, which leads us to the conclusion that maybe we're not the real reality.
Yeah.
There is some space limitations for where we're storing the rules of reality.
Ooh, yeah, that's another thought.
I'm not certain how happy I like that. On the other hand, it means somewhere out there might be a greater reality, and they're peering through us and they're like, oh, okay, hey, I kind of like this song. Let's copy that out of the mini universe and put it into the real one. These T-shirts are funny. We'll copy them. Patent the T-shirt idea design. By the way, we got nothing like T-shirts over here in real reality. And hey, they've got some interesting games they've designed, fairly primitive style. So I guess we are going to start having the rights on Half-Life series. I don't know what a Half-Life is, but we'll market it by the same name.
They have the hubris to consider that we're real reality. We know we can create a multitude of fake realities, but obviously ours must be the real one.
Well, here's the scary concept to really sink in. If you can program in any way an artificial reality, what are you going to wind up doing with that artificial reality? And who can afford to do so? Chances are it's going to wind up being a corporation, and they're going to mine it for ideas that they can sell at a profit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it may wind up sadly being that our reality only exists to create and shill products out for a greater reality. there is no grander purpose in design for our existence than that.
Speaking of that, your advertisement could be here right now on this podcast. Think of all the wonderful listeners you'd be reaching right now.
And they'd be really susceptible to it because, boy, we just blew their minds with a deep concept.
So contact us at thesimulationist@gmail.com if you have a great product that you want to reach tens of listeners with.
Wait, what if they're copying like our podcast and putting it out in a greater reality? What if it's it's like a little potpourri thing they put out, like, okay, here's what was come up in the false reality for the last week, and you get like it'd be like the equivalent of like a magazine, and we're just like a little column article in there. Weird.
Well, we kind of are a column article on a larger reality called the Internet.
Well, I'm just thinking it's just like we're not even intending it, but we could be broadcasting to a greater reality than our own.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing I decided to become a co-host extraordinaire this week.
Good thing you stepped up your game. Okay, well...
Could you imagine if we got cancelled? That would be hideous.
Maybe we should step up our game. What else? Do we have other sort of news?
I have a conspiracy idea this week. Yes. It's been a little while since I had another conspiracy idea for you guys. I'll let you figure out why. But I noticed something this week, and that was the advertisements that Subway has for their lobster subs. They're not actually paying us to shill on this sort of thing. So
Subway, eat fresh.
But I noticed just above the word lobster, they had 4 symbols. Ooh, a seagull,
Illuminati,
an anchor, a lobster, and a buoy.
Okay, they're all ocean-related.
Well, as they should be. It's connected like to the lobster. Like the Atlantic lobster they're trying to get everyone to eat for the next 90 days.
Oh, no puzzle there.
But that's what occurred to me. I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking... And a little voice in the back of my head says, "Hey, what if that means something? It's like a 4-letter word, in like Wingdings font. Because everyone's played around with the Wingdings font on their computer, right? What does this all look like as weird, crazy images? Oh, and it's like, dude, it's 4 symbols, 4 letters. What if they're swearing at you in like Wingdings or Webdings or one of those fancy languages? So I checked it out. Sorry to break this the conspiracy news to you. No font I have actually has it have any of those symbols.
I like the thought that it might be like a disgruntled marketing person.
Exactly.
One of the PR or somebody.
It's just crazy enough to have you believe it. Because, after the stuff that happened with Disney with, I'll put in a fake phallus here in the background. Yeah, I think we've all heard that story. Or several stories, yeah. Yeah, or I'll put in a naughty word in the background of the smoke as this happens here.
Although I remember hearing that was supposed to be SFX, which was the name of the company.
Admittedly, it was a pretty bad idea if you're, you sure no one's going to confuse the F with an E? But yeah, everyone's heard the thing. Some of them are true, some of them aren't. I don't think this is true for a conspiracy idea that someone, like a disgruntled employee, secretly spelled out, dropped an F-bomb secretly in the advertisement.
I bet it happens, though. We know it sort of happens. I guess we don't know for certain with Disney, but I think it probably happens.
And they probably get away with it from time to time,
and
too.
You see them on Jay Leno every once in a while, too. It's like in a little corner. It's like somebody snuck in a naughty word or something. And
yeah, little fun things like that. Or if you look down the column page for the first letter on each word there, it winds up saying, something like Ted parked in my space again or something, like that. But yes, so the conspiracy notion for this week is you look at those 4 symbols, the seagull, the anchor, the lobster, and the buoy. And say to yourself, what is that message? That's a message that's out there. Everyone is seeing it. It's an advertisement they're putting up in all the windows, probably in newspaper. I don't read much for newspapers these days.
Earth, air, fire, water or something?
Maybe. It's out there. It's in front of everyone's face. But because it's advertising, and we're all, we don't pay attention to advertising, no one's seeing it. What secret message is being relayed in these 4 symbols? Have you ever heard about the signals that people spies put out over the ham radio waves?
Numbers just being read.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
The thing is that's been going out since World War II. It's still happening. If you're a ham radio aficionado, you've probably heard it before. And the code, it only means something to a person who's got the translation to it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there's no way to crack the code. It's just like a random, sequence of numbers. If it means this, it's a random other sequence of numbers if it means that.
And they're read out by a person, like a
not
person
necessarily the person who's spying. There's one really creepy one where they got like a little like a jingle to play, like this sort of thing you'd hear on like one of those organ grinder people does, a little like Camptown Races sort of thing slowly, and then they had like a German girl saying numbers, and it's just really trippy to hear because it sounds so sinister. And it's just a little innocent girl in German. Oct, zero, oct. And it's like, whoa, like what's this mean? It's like messing with my head.
Well, the last, like when I read some article on probably howstuffworks.com or another podcast. Hey, shout out to How Stuff Works and Stuff That Will Blow Your Mind. Those are great. Another podcast you could be listening to now.
After, not now.
Thank you for choosing The Simulationist. But yeah, they mentioned that I think the most plausible theory was that it was for drug deals, or that things of that nature. And that
it's for illicit and illegal activities. You're clearly hiding your true intents and purposes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
drug deals it's big business.
Especially if you're we'll say if this is coming out of like the southern area of Florida, it's likely for okay. I'm supposed to be with the U.S. Coast Guard, but I'm sending a secret message because I'm being bribed, by the drug dealers, and they're saying that it's going to be this route, Route A is where they're going tonight, not Route B, and so I will send Signal A to them, and it only means something to them because they know what Signal A actually is. Yeah. You'd have to wind up listening to the same recording and figuring out what it could potentially relate to before you can connect anything up. A lot of work, very hard to crack that way.
I think it'd be kind of fun to play as in a role-playing game that's sort of centered on that underworld, that smuggling world.
I think that sort of thing is very good and very fun to play, provided the players are into it. If you just want a guy who's going to shoot everything and crack heads, not going to be as much fun for him. But a subtle espionage type thing where this stuff comes up, excellent. But
you hand the players a sheet just full of random numbers and say, okay, figure this out. I'll be over here drinking Pepsi.
No, you hand it out to them at the end of the session. That's what they wind up getting, and then they have a week to crack it. No one manages to crack it. I guess it's an intelligence role, espionage, information stuff, just to see if they do it.
I like the thought that it really is just random, and you just see, let's find out what they can figure out with it.
This is secretly a Rorschach sort of style test. I'm going to see what it means to them, and I'm going to learn more of their mentalities this way.
Great.
And that's why you don't trust a DM who is also a psychologist.
Yeah.
But yes, your conspiracy notion for this week is to figure out what those symbols mean, who it's supposed to be to, what's going on with the seagull, the anchor, the lobster, and the buoy.
It means the stars are not yet right. But soon they will be. Maybe
it's a Cthulian, like a subtle thing out there, and that's how they get their message out to everyone. There's more subways out there on Earth right now than there are McDonald's.
It's funny. I always associated Starbucks with that sort of, because they have a mermaid, so it feels like
the twin-tailed mermaid. So yeah.
Yeah, I never really thought of Subway that way, but now that they're into lobster, and.
They've been taken over, at least temporarily, by the Illuminati, as they need to send out a message to all their agents without alerting attention to those who are paying attention. Because those who are paying attention don't pay attention to advertisements. They're thinking about the real things.
They pay attention to this podcast, so we're giving you a tip there. I like, too, that it seems that the ocean is very connected with mysteries and those sort of that.
Well, as Lovecraft himself said, the water is a mystery so deep that even telepathic signals cannot, go through. Which is why Cthulhu isn't driving everyone insane all the time. The water is actively keeping his thoughts barred.
Yeah.
So, yes, if you actually do believe horrible alien monstrosities are bombarding your thoughts, start by getting a waterbed.
Oh, did you see Weird Al?
Yes, that's right. That's another bit of a news story this week. Yes.
He put out a whole bunch of new
videos.
New
music video every day for the last 8 days. I think he's actually just about ending for that. It'll be day 6 today.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention, but I couldn't avoid it. Just people are just linking it. And so
he's Weird Al. Everyone likes to link him. His stuff is great.
I've always enjoyed Weird Al, so it's okay, cool. Here's another entertaining video. Stuff. So he's singing about
foil
Like,
instead of royal.
Instead of royals,
Yeah.
Tinfoil hat. And that song was actually shorter. Like, it was over very quickly than I thought it was. It really built up well because it's like, I love tinfoil, and he's like cooking with it, doing the normal
wrapping stuff up, keeping it fresh.
And then about halfway through the song, it turns. Well, I mean, you've probably
foil,
probably
tinfoil hat, crazy people,
and then he goes crazy, and then it sort of almost ends as soon as we figure out, oh, okay, he's crazy now, and he sings about 2 lines about being crazy, and it's like, okay, that's the song, haha, we had fun. I was kind of hoping for a little more drawn-out, crazy section to that song, but I guess there's only so much.
No, you want a good conspiracy idea, start looking at Weird Al stuff. He puts 42 in a lot, doesn't start singing till 42 seconds into the song, 3 minutes, 42 seconds, 4 minutes, 42 seconds. He's pretty big on that. He does some backtracking stuff as well. It doesn't say anything important. It's like, wow, you must have had a lot of time to work this out. So he has fun with it. So yeah, there's an extra conspiracy notion for you. So watch Weird Al's latest music videos and see what you can figure out for conspiracy notions and where things come in, where 42 is related.
Cool.
But otherwise, yeah, figure out these 4 symbols. Is it a word? Is it like does it mean something? When the seagull sinks, there's your anchor, and the lobsters rise up, sort of thing. What's going on? Because lobster and the buoy goes up, whereas the anchor goes down. So you've got some up and down connections going already. Lobster and seagull. Well, actually, you could wind up making it the elements. The buoy is let's see here. Well, the anchor is clearly earth.
Earth for anchor. Okay, got it.
The seagull would be air.
Air for the bird. Yeah.
The buoy would be water.
I guess water because it's buoyant on the surface.
And the lobster is fire. Because of its red coloration.
It's red.
And it's painful when it gets you with its claws.
Yeah, and it's alive. It's got the spark of life.
Yes.
Although so does the seagull, but I don't know.
So let's face it, seagulls, they exist, but are they truly alive?
I would say seagulls are more alive than lobsters, because lobsters are like cold-blooded, aren't they? Well, I don't know. Are they? I think they are.
They're poikilothermic. It's very close.
Okay. And birds are more like... Well, birds evolved from dinosaurs, so...
They are slightly more warm-blooded than you and I, technically. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily alive.
Which has a bigger brain? I think birds probably.
The birds, although if they could get away with a smaller brain, they would. Simply because extra brain equals extra weight. They're always looking to try and slim down. Birds, if they could get away with it, would be the most bulimic species on the face of the planet.
But a seagull brain has got to be
groups
like
of species
a teaspoon, right?
It's not big, I'll admit.
And a lobster brain is probably like a pea.
It's even smaller, I'll admit. But that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you've got a bigger brain that you can do more with it. I mean, there's branches off of the human family tree that had larger brains than humanity as it currently exists. That doesn't necessarily mean they were smarter.
Cool.
There was some evidence that they just weren't, as like brain folded as we are. So it's not what you got; it's how you structure it and how you use it.
Cool.
So but yes, as I figure out what these 4 symbols mean to you, who it's intended for, and what's going to happen to you once you figure it out.
Ooh.
Because that's always kind of fun. It's like, they've got me. Now they're going to... it's not really lobster. It's people. The people who found out the last code.
Great. Well, now we definitely know we're not sponsored by Subway.
Subway, eat flesh.
Oh, boy.
There we go. I just guaranteed one less potential sponsor.
No, maybe they'll have a sense of humor.
What do you think the pulled pork was? It was long pork.
Spooky. Do you want to move on?
Yes. That was just a nice little thing I had. This a symbol. Symbols in plain sight that everyone seems to ignore.
Everybody loves a good symbol.
Well, that's the thing is keep an eye out for symbols. Try and figure out what they mean, what they are not supposed to mean, and what they could potentially mean. It's a lot of fun. Have just toy with it. If nothing else, it's something to do while you're eating your sub. Because Subways don't have televisions. I don't think they got TVs playing sports or anything up anywhere.
Not in any Subway that I've been to.
So
people can bring their phones now with them and watch YouTube or listen to podcasts.
Well, there you go. And if you're you don't feel like listening to podcasts while you're eating a sub, you just sit back, stare at the symbols, and see what do they mean to you. What do they mean? But yeah, there's your conspiracy notion for this week and forever many weeks until I come up with a new one. There you go.
Cool, very good.
So, what have you been doing, though, this week, Josh?
My week. Okay, so today was another improv class. I don't know how much to report about that. I had fun. I enjoyed it very much, so I've been doing improv class.
Did you plan to have fun? Was the fun improv?
I always go in intending to have fun, yes.
So while you were improving, the intent of fun was not improv.
I suppose, yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, part of it wasn't. And in some ways, there's no true improv because it always comes from somewhere inside you.
Conceptually, we are logical beings to our core.
I guess, do we really have true free will? I don't know.
Boy, well, that'll be kind of nice to see once we get artificial intelligence working. True improv of complete randomness.
Yeah. I guess you could say we sort of have that in like, I don't know, dice and stuff, but...
well, that's how we include randomness of some sort, but you'd have to come up with a truly random table, and then you'd need a true randomization going on for enough articles and all that. You're going to have to be an artificial intelligence to work it on the fly, especially in front of an audience.
Yeah, and so my improv teacher, who, like, now I sort of gotten to know him a little bit more, Dave Morris, is probably going to be on the podcast in a couple of weeks.
Hooray!
So,
co-host.
Yeah, assuming we can do scheduling and work that out.
Yeah.
So we'll have a guest. So that's part of it. More Minecraft, playing Minecraft all the time. I've been trying to get Silk Touch on a gold pickaxe because I figured, like, I always carry 3 pickaxes with me. Always a regular one, which usually is enchanted with efficiency, and another one for Silk Touch to get the blocks and stuff, and another one with Fortune for, to
get a lot of
stuff. So I figured what I want to try and do...
Do those 2 last enchantments, they work together? Can you get like a Silk Touch Fortune?
They do not. They do not work together. They one of them I think Silk Touch overrides Fortune.
So you can't mine something and get 2 blocks of that sort of thing.
Right. No. You
Nerds.
can't. Yeah. So I've been I always have 3 of the same color axe. So it's always like hard to
double check
to figure out which one is which. So I figured if at least one of them is gold, or maybe a gold and an iron in it, like if my Silk Touch is always gold, then I can always go for that one.
Go for the gold.
Yeah, it would. I see. This is the level I'm playing Minecraft on now. I'm down to reducing the number of clicks when I'm in my inventory, like.
Yeah. Don't worry. Eventually everyone gets there.
Yeah.
Maximum efficiency.
And then, pestering Mojang on Twitter and the Minecraft suggestions, like, why don't you put in a little shortcut if I could just hold down Control and, like, scroll, and then I could do so much easier, yeah.
I'd be actually quite happy if they had a thing where if you had an unenchanted, item that winds up breaking from the durability loss, if you had another one in the inventory, it automatically slots back in there.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
That way I wouldn't have to be fighting, like a skeleton, bow on bow, and then all of a sudden, I'm back down to melee, and there's no spot for me to hide.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. Although, yeah, no, I mean, little things like that, I like to think about them, but I also think that, A, it's sort of part of the gameplay as that inventory management, and B, I really shouldn't be caring that much about, that. It's just a game. Although, well, it's just a game.
Hey,
I don't know.
It's just a game to you. For them, it's their livelihood and their business.
Yeah,
they should be taking your notions seriously, even if it's just a game to you.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, for the fans, it's just a game. But if they pester I say pester in a nice way.
Poke 'em. Hey, I got an idea. They should at least consider all potential ideas.
Yeah. Well, they can't consider everybody's idea because they're literally getting thousands every day. Yeah, but
see, this is one of the reasons I actually like Dwarf Fortress. Is for Toady, it's not exactly just like his work. For him, it's his dream, it's his goal, it's his baby, and so as such, I mean, he doesn't want it. He could have sold off Dwarf Fortress to like a AAA game developer for a dang good amount, apparently, but he didn't want to lose. Like what was his dream. He didn't want to, have it be done out in 3 years. by a team. He wanted to keep it so pure in concept to just him, even if it takes him the next 20 years to make it as he wants. So as such, he can freely, I can read the idea. It's a good notion here, and that would save a lot of time and space and be very efficient. I guess I'll put that in my list of things to do versus, no, I won't. I don't like the idea. I don't like how it changes the concept or the gameplay, and I'm going to ignore it from here on out. So he can do that because it's a bit of a different style for him. So that's just kind of groovy.
Yeah, well, that's a way to do it. Okay, and one other thing that I've been besides Minecraft, and I've been wanting to. I started recording again, although I didn't get a full episode done. But I'm doing more Minecraft Let's Plays. I'm probably going to upload some more of those and some building videos and work on my dirt castle, which I have sort of lain fallow for too long. Because I've been doing other things.
Just a question: are you planning on like a ramparts on the top of your castle?
Well, basically, all I've done so far is I've done a giant wall. It's 12 blocks high on average. It's in sort of hilly terrain, so it varies, and it's probably 100 blocks by 40 blocks by 100. And there's a stables in it, so I've done that so far, and I'm pretty happy with the walls because you can walk along the top of them, and they have what do you call them, crenellations, made out of dirt. Of course. So
here's a notion for you. They're dirt crenellations. What you could do is put in like a little sub-tower reinforcement stuff, just to put in a little oomph in between there. Put some water in the center there, and then just start putting in tilled fields up there. So at the top of your castle fortress, you've got wheat growing on one side. There's invaders coming in on carrot side.
Throw wheat at them. oh, I see. Carrot side.
Yeah, carrot side, wheat side, potato side, and
pumpkins.
Pumpkins wouldn't really work for crenellations, would they? Have you modded in corn or anything? That's pretty popular.
I could add a new crop. That wouldn't be too hard. Wait, how many?
You just work with generic flowers and make the whole thing go. They're coming
the flower
up
side.
They're coming in flower side.
Or mushroom side.
You'd need
mushrooms are hard to
You'd have to make it work with the mycelium that way.
Yeah. Or I could just do the mushroom blocks, I suppose.
But that way you could have a very interesting personalized design there. And you got the big towers on the end at the top of the tower. You put it in a spot for a tree to grow up.
Yeah.
Turn it into a very elven retreat style.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's going to be similar to that. Although
and make sure you got moss going down on the outsides and all that
moss,
too. Yeah.
Like mossy stone, you mean? Or,
just
the vines.
The vines that grow down there. The mossy vine. Yeah.
Because I could incorporate moss stone. I think that would look kind of good in between the dirt.
Yeah. See, you could have something that by the time that you're done, you take a few snapshots, put that up, and everyone can go, ooh, it's very natural style look. I quite like what you've done.
Yeah. And I am a big fan of the Minecraft Reddit or Minecraft subreddit.
And then once you get all that done, you put a little bit of magma down at the base, and you watch as the fire just cleans the whole area around.
And then do it all, and
then start again.
Oh, I like it. That's fun.
Videotape that bit as the fire takes everything and just purify and burn.
Or TNT it all or something.
So I've got the whole thing set up. Beep, boom, baby.
I've seen people do that on YouTube videos, yeah.
Well, to be fair, that's pretty close to the Minecraft stuff, where with the Dwarf Fortress combination, where you set things up so that if everything goes wrong, you just flip the one switch and everything goes off. There have been people that have literally been well, there's no way we can kill this forgotten beast. We're down to 3 dwarves, 2 of which are running from the monster, and 1 of which is in the safety room. The one dwarf in the safety room throws the switch, and the entire mountain collapses. Boom! The computer freezes up for 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever, as all the calculations go through it. Boom!
Yeah.
Everything's gone.
That's fun, yeah.
Then that's the only reason why we do it that way, is because Toady will not let us implement fistful materials. We have pitch blend, but we cannot refine it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have a nuke option in every fortress. So I think he's smart to have not done that.
Mm-hmm. And nobody's modded it in?
It's rather hard. That would require something that would have some very interesting properties. You could wind up making a custom building that would have a reaction that would create enough product that would be so instantaneously lethal, it would do some pretty nasty damage to anything within the area. But I don't...
Like a neutron bomb?
There's nothing that could act, I believe, that would actually destroy walls or built brick.
Right.
And all that. I don't think there's much of a way to do that.
Yep.
Because right now there's this weird. You could have the entire fortress sitting on a pillar of ice, a single constructed pillar of made out of a block of ice, and then surround that ice by magma, and then it would not melt because it's a construct. And right now it's not in the game engine to check. Like, hey, do you think the magma might melt this ice? Yeah, I mean it's a construct, but it's ice, and right now it's just like I don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a thing. I have built a fortress of ice on the top of a volcano. It was pretty sweet.
I like the thought, though. Imagine, like, if you could somehow create a fortress out of ice that, like, replenished itself fast enough, you could sort of float on a cloud of steam, and, like, the fortress would constantly being
buffeted back up by its own weight.
And it would slowly, the bottom would erode, but you have, like, dwarves up top, like, with refrigeration units or something, like with ice machines, basically.
Or you could have something like perma-ice from like the quasi-elemental plane of cold that melts at a much slower thing. It produces a lot of steam, and the dwarves are always building on top of that, so there's always like this period of renewal. The fortress itself is effectively replenished every 2,000 years.
I like that for like just a campaign idea, yeah.
There's a nice little notion there. Will be tied to the dwarves at the very bottom, utilizing the steam and the heat from the magma to actually forge their metal items, because they have to move up to the floor up above every 2 years.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Whole place is slowly steaming, melting away.
And I like too that like the beginning of the cycle would be really crappy, and they'd really hate it because they move up to a colder zone, so they're like, nothing works properly.
It takes me forever to smith this. The heat just really isn't with it. And then in the last 30 days, it's like, oh man, I gotta wait for my
so good, but it's working so good, but it's like, geez, it's hot.
I gotta go up to my Arctic, ice room where everything's made out of ice.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I could really get into that sort of thing. It's like a extra planner, area of note that people would remember for a while.
I suppose, yeah, it could be even on the elemental plane of fire or something. Like it could be a ship almost on a sea of lava. It could just go different places.
Or you could wind up having is like an exiled god of cold, imprisoned in the plane of fire, and they're creating like the perma-cold about them, and the dwarves are just constantly chipping away from the perma-ice sort of thing, as they have their core refrigeration of the imprisoned horrible deity who wants this to maintain, because he doesn't want to get any closer to the fire because he's a god of cold, even though he's paralyzed in a big block of ice.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So that thought.
So yeah, there's a nice concept idea for if you want an extra planner site for people to remember for years to come.
And one more thing I wanted to talk about. What I've been up to is speaking of dwarves. I've been I switched over to writing a bit more of Dwarf Trek, my serialized. It's going to be in podcast form, so watch for it. I don't know if we'll be able
when
how when it'll be, but it will happen, it may not.
Well, I mean, if you're listening to this in 4102, you probably know for certain.
Actually, yeah, you can just look up Dwarf Trek and see if I finally completed at least a season of it.
Skip ahead a couple iterations and just check to see if we changed the names for things. I mean, maybe Dwarf Trek is like just the working title. Maybe you want to go. It is
a working title,
like
but
Sojourn or like I don't know. Find out whatever the Nordic word is for journeys.
Saga? That's different. That's not journey, but
it's also apparently trying to be copyrighted by a few nasty little companies. So
you can this is going to be a podcast drama in this
I can still see them attempting
style.
a cease and desist.
I can't. I don't think it's going to happen. It's too different a genre. They're trying to copyright it for video games, and I don't have plans for a saga video game. But I might not use the word saga either. I don't know. I think it's a good word, especially involve dwarves and like fantasy. I think saga is a good.
And then you could have a running joke within about whether or not you pronounce it saga or saga.
Oh yeah.
And let's face it, a good running joke. I mean, people will like that. Bad running joke, and people will stay away and draw. So make sure it's a good joke.
And I've been reading through the Screenwriter's Handbook to see to make sure I'm sort of doing things kind of how other people have in the past. So I'm sort of following the trail that has already been blazed.
Standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, it's just seeing what's important to do and what not. Although, the thing about podcasts is we don't have to. There's no gatekeeper for this or for anything that I'm doing podcast-wise. So we don't have to follow any of the rules or do anything like that. So
that said, the more alien you are compared to everyone else, the harder it is for people just to go, oh, it's like this, and pick it up so easily. So
yeah. So
there are unwritten barriers.
Yeah, that's true. And so it's up to you and I, and of course we're looking for listener feedback always.
Oh yeah, if you want us to go nuts, we'll do that, man.
And you can pull my troll joke of writing a tweet with all capital E's, and because I thought that was funny when I did that to the NPC cast guys, but
hey, if it's funny at the time, it should always wind up being funny.
Although I'm surprised more people haven't done like. When podcast says, hey, give us feedback, more people don't do that, like weird. That's because that's such a dumb, obvious joke.
Well, nobody notices the obvious.
Yeah. Okay. So that's been my week in simulations.
Well, it was a busier week than mine. Okay. I got back a little bit into WoW. I had the urge come upon me.
So did you restart, paying for an account? Or
No, I'm still doing the free stuff.
Oh, it's free now. Or,
up to level 20. And so I just had some fun in the random dungeons.
Oh, cool.
And you know what? I liked it. There was I got a good crew underneath me, and we did 2 runs of the Wailing Caverns back to back, and I got 2 out of 5 pieces of the set they have within there, the Viper set.
Mm-hmm. And you figure you can get the rest of them too? Or?
With a few more runs, I don't see why not, so long as I always put myself on need for the loot, because I need the rest of the set. Mm-hmm. Even though it gives intellect bonuses, and I'm playing a hunter, and hunters don't need intellect anymore.
Yeah, because it's old. That's a vanilla.
It's a vanilla set, yeah.
Vanilla,
you can tell by how tackily colored it is. Sad to say, you can tell.
Is it vanilla when the any expansions?
Yeah, pre-expansion. It's pure vanilla.
It's called vanilla.
Yeah,
vanilla. Wow, I don't know.
But it occurs to me that I'm only playing this to level 20. I've already maxed my level out. Now all I can do is gear out for that sort of thing, and there's no tier gear for level 20.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe that's where I call it. That's my high end. I'm geared out. I get myself the Viper set. Get myself a few blue items for here, there, and everywhere, and then I say, hey, that character's done. I've maxed myself out. Go trap someone else. Go roll up a chamois. See how they play. I've never done that.
Someone else to 20. When you're on that free account, can you go into the higher level areas, like the zones?
You can go to any one of the zones. How long you'll survive there is another question entirely.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I was playing, way back in the vanilla day, got to level 20, and it's like, well, I still have so many days left on my free trial, because back then it was like a 10-day, something free trial. Mm-hmm. And so I just, corpse hopped my way to all the fly points, because you actually had to go to the fly points to get them back then.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun in, the burning steppes, just dying and running away from everything.
Well, now, at level 20, are you earning enough money to pay for griffins to wherever? I guess you'd have to save up.
I just greed a lot. I just greed anything I can't personally use for my stuff, and I wind up selling that, for vendor cash.
Oh, and you have access to the auction house?
Not the auction house, just the vendors.
Oh, okay. So if you don't pay, you don't get auction?
You don't get the auction house. You don't get the ability to say anything in the regular chat.
Can you join a guild?
Nope.
No.
I can't even do the little battle pet stuff.
Oh, okay.
Although the quests I can accept, I just can't do anything with them. Oh.
Yeah, it's give us money and we'll let you play.
We'll let you play extra game of Pokemon, yeah.
I guess they need to make their money. Although Blizzard, I mean, how much money have they made already? But
let's see, 11 million players at $15 a pop. Enough.
Yeah.
More than I'll ever see. But no, that was basically my week. Is just getting into the lower end stuff and just appreciating the game for itself.
Can you get to Northrend? Is that possible?
Yeah, I can fly to Northrend. Oh, what's the thing is I can play some races I normally didn't think you'd be able to play. I got Worgen, I got Goblins I can play.
Okay.
So I can always start up. I might actually sit down with one of those space goats and actually play through their entire starting zone, because I never got through that. I just got so bored with them that I got to go somewhere else.
I played through that starting zone. I didn't find it too bad.
Well, I went through the first starting zone, but then they got that second island that's all like colored pink, and I'm like,
yeah.
Now I'm
like
going to go
Westfall.
to Darnassus and do some quests there, and then I wound up saying, no, I missed playing the Horde side, and off I went. So, but I might do that because I can do that for free. Hooray! But yeah, that's basically the big thing in my fictional work this week.
Can you gather? Can you be a miner? Or
yeah, all the professions are up to 150, or if you got the appropriate racial skill, 165. I think you might be able to go higher on fishing. Not that matters much.
I guess you can't. Can you trade items with other players?
No.
Okay.
No, you are very much restricted to getting just a sample of the game.
I guess that would be almost cheaty if you could just basically be a copper farmer and just sell people copper. I mean, that's almost like Chinese gold farmer level territory.
Yeah, and there is always a market for something like copper and the basic herbs in the game, because there's always someone like, oh, I'm just going to level up my alt. Yeah. And then next thing you know, they spend 500 gold in the auction house by, just buying the basic herbs, buying the basic ores.
Yeah, so I guess if accounts were free and you could do that, basically people would probably.
Although I did notice something interesting in the achievements area. I got a few little tunes I've played out with, tested this and that out. It turns out if you get them to the 150 for their skill cap, that counts as getting maxed out for the purpose of the achievement of maxing out every skill. Just start off with the starter account, get a few tunes up there, get everyone up to the 150 skill max, you get the achievement, then you start spending the $15 a month for your subscription, and you've already got the one that would otherwise have to take you a long time and approximately 90 levels in each character to do. So I found that one to be an interesting little potential exploit, but it's just for 10 achievement points that don't do anything in the game. Is it really that much of an exploit?
Yeah, probably not really, yeah.
Yeah, but that's just something I noticed this week, and, as I'm just going back and re-exploring some of the stuff. Although, I must say, I'm getting a hankering for some other, Blizzard games. I might crack out my copy of Diablo 2 and go back into that a little bit more, have some fun there.
Cool.
This is waiting for 5th edition. It's getting me hyped up and playing some games. I got to get a fix in.
Well, you and I aren't planning on necessarily a campaign, although we always sort of in the back of our minds we kind of hope that we're going to start a campaign somehow.
Or maybe just a little one-off adventure here and there might not be unwarranted, because I mean there's some interesting combinations and background stuff I wouldn't mind testing out in 5th.
Yeah. But do you know if you have plans? Like, have you found if there's a group who runs something?
Well, there's like the Vancouver Island Gaming Association. You can probably find them up on Facebook and all that. And apparently, from what I've been told, there's a lot of people hopping for 5th edition to get a play on.
Cool. Yeah.
But I've got a young daughter. I've got a fairly full life with a podcast.
Yeah, maybe not enough time to play a regular game then.
Well, I mean, I may have to wind up picking up. I put down the $20 for like a reserve copy at my friendly local gaming store, Skyhaven Games. And while I was there, I was there with my daughter, and the guy showed me a game called Little Wizards. It's meant for a much younger audience than most role-playing games are. Mm-hmm. And I might go back there when I have a little bit of free time, not, when I've got a kid potentially running around picking up at all sorts of things, and see if it's up to that, and maybe I'll plop down the $30 and get something so that when my daughter's a little older, if you're okay with a basic game, we can all sit down at the table and play a basic role-playing game with my daughter.
Oh, that would be fun, yeah.
I'm intrigued about the possibilities, personally, so... So yeah, I mean, I may have to look up some reviews, double check. Maybe it's the game for me, maybe it's not, and that's why we have reviews online. So I'll figure it out from there. But it's a potential concept. As soon as I can read to her and she can pay attention to what is being said, oh, there we go. Although I will note, earlier today she noticed the shirt I was wearing, which is a Ghostbusters shirt. She saw the insignia and she looked at me and said, "The Ghostba." So apparently I've been showing enough Ghostbusters cartoons on there. She gets the symbol, and she's starting to be able to connect the words next to it and get things close. So,
well, yeah, that's the great thing about being into cartoons and games and stuff like that, is your kids, they're going to love you.
Well, I hate to say it, but the reason I went to university was because of Dr. Peter Venkman. Oh. He showed me you could be a scientist and still have a personality about you. You don't have to be just some sort of drilled drone in a lab coat, man.
Yeah.
You can be a real person.
Yeah, well, I always kind of missed, I didn't discover science until probably fourth year, I think, of university, when I took the one science class for non-majors or whatever. Ah. And I was like, this is really cool. And I kind of, and then even after graduating, I was like, watching YouTube videos and stuff of science. And Neil deGrasse Tyson rose in popularity at some point in the last...
Bill Nye's always been popular.
And, Bill Nye has always been there. For some reason, I don't know why Bill Nye didn't spark that in me, but he did. But
to be fair, it wasn't Bill Nye that sparked it in me when I was young. Okay. It was Beekman.
I mean, I always loved Bill Nye as a fun entertainer, and I did like science, but it wasn't...
I respected him for his pro-science style. Yeah. That said, I personally preferred Beekman for his hair and neon green lab coat.
Yeah.
And his jokes, I think, were a little bit wackier and more attuned to my style at the time.
Yeah. And then, I only sort of, really started liking science as a thing that I like as an adult, as after college even. So,
just for note for everyone out there, apparently Bill Nye only has a bachelor's degree.
That's true. Yeah, he's an engineer, or he has a bachelor's degree in engineering or something.
The things you can do with just the basic minimal degree and the right mindset are potentially limitless. The minds you can help influence, the things you can do just by starting to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, well, and his specialty, his thing, what he is, I guess his primary thing. I hate to define people this way, but I suppose he is an entertainer, right? Yeah. He's not technically a scientist, although he's very science-minded. He's a smart guy.
He debates pro-science in a science versus religion sort of debates.
Yeah. So he knows a lot of things, but when it comes down to what he is, that's not his profession, right?
That's not his training background.
Yeah, although he's very sciencey. He's a sciencey guy.
He has the right mindset that he could conceivably pick up enough information in any field to make him at least worth listening to.
Yep.
So.
And sort of that, I sort of aspire to that. I think if anybody can't be a scientist per se, then the next best thing is to be someone like Bill Nye, who is very interested in science and likes promoting science, even though you're not necessarily a scientist. You're doing your own thing, he's an entertainer.
You have the right mind for it to help the science grow within your soul.
Yeah. So I guess we do a little bit of hopefully advancing the cause of science without necessarily being directly in the profession of doing science, right?
Well, that's the thing. I think anyone with the right mind, and the attitude to learn is there. They're already there. So if you say, I actually read up the subject matter before I form an opinion, congratulations. You're already at the right mind. You're facing the right direction. The path can lead you wherever you want.
Yep. And we love the scientists, the actual scientists. We love them because
we definitely respect their ability to make a living off of that sort of thing. Because it's one thing to just be in the right mind. It's another thing to be able to pay for the house, the car, pay down your student debts through that sort of mindset.
I suppose. Well, we could get into a whole political argument about how we wish our governments would pay for more scientific research and projects and stuff, but that's probably, I don't know if that's today's topic.
No, that's a bit of a contentious issue. We'll wait till maybe after the election in 2015.
No, I wouldn't say contentious. I just think it's off, it's a little bit out of what we normally talk
Well,
about.
I mean, there's some people that say, well, the
I think
government
we
should
all
only
would-
be focused in the core things to make sure that all society doesn't break down around them. And other people are saying, like, no, the government should be there to help create this huge infrastructure to do all this stuff, and they take money for the betterment of everyone. And what government means to you is a very different thing to different people. So it's contentious.
Okay, yeah, I
in that
suppose
regard.
among some people. I think you and I are sort of on the side of more like we want government to pay for scientific research.
I would be
something like
happy if the government was to ask a little bit more money from everyone for advancements, like NASA. I would be perfectly fine doubling whatever money goes out of the if NASA instead of just America became all of North America. I would be happy to pay more taxes if I knew it went straight to NASA, because the amount of good stuff they've come up with, I consider that a worthwhile use of my money.
Yeah, I like it.
I think-
support of NASA. Good.
Yeah, I think if NASA had like an open donations thing, I would be willing to contribute to whatever I could, once per year, and not just for tax benefits, to the cause of science and space exploration.
Yeah, and do you agree with me too? Like, there's that aspect of it. Do you agree with me too that the private sector getting into science is also pretty cool?
The private sector is cool with the caveat, like, oh my goodness, their
Like
aim
Elon
is,
Musk and that sort of thing. Like,
their aim is towards a profit
Richard
for
Branson.
the industry. So Richard Branson, I'm going to give a little extra leeway. Richard Branson is the kind of guy who's like, this is awesome. Let's do this awesome thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll make us some money. More other people are much more like, if you don't show a profit, we fire everyone and hire people who will get us a profit. And that leads to dark areas of science that lead, like without moral and ethical constraints, because they're after the almighty dollar instead.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's something to watch out for. Yeah.
So that there's a red flag about commercial science sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only just a general, just before I say whatever. That said, I love industrial and commercial science, because that stuff they demand results, and so they will get towards results instead of just saying, oh, guess I got to write another paper so I can get more money again from a grant next year. Sort of science that can go apostate, I believe, is an interesting term to use in this case.
Oh, okay.
Where you're doing it just for more base reasons, and you're not actually trying for anything other than enough money to get you through another year.
Okay. Well, I think we need a bit of both. We need that a little bit of leeway for those scientists, because they might stumble on something cool.
Well, yes. When it comes to grant-based science, where you're not focused on the end result of this is going to get us $1 million a month, hooray! Mm-hmm. You can work on a lot less applied science, more on pure research, which does lead to some wonderful fallout down the road, because it is the foundation upon which applied stuff is applied. So, yeah.
Okay, so that was our political discussions. Oh, sort of. I think it wasn't too political either. So
no, you could just say whichever political affiliations have that on their platform, we're pro that group. Whichever one seems to be not on that, we are anti that group.
Yeah, is it my top issue? I don't know if it's necessarily.
I'll put it in my top 5.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
the
environment and not
investing in education and science,
infrastructure. I'm big on infrastructure. I believe roads should be maintained. I believe power line. I believe cable and fiber optics should be under that whole thing too. Government should be making sure everyone gets it everywhere.
Cool. I like that.
That's a bit
Sounds
of an
fun.
out there idea. It's probably not going to come to much fruition. But yeah, that's as close as political as I'm usually willing to get.
Yeah, that's perfect. We should move on to the next thing that we're
a notable topic.
Wait, what were we doing last? We
finishing off on what I'd done this week, and that was about it.
Yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to share about?
Not really. I got some coins for my daughter. Some
you were
coins
saying
at the store.
Okay, coins.
Gold, silver, and copper. She loves playing with them, and I'm gonna go get some more because they're fun to play with.
Yeah.
I want to get her nerdy while she's young. That way, I get the copper, silver, gold sort of style going on there. It's ingrained into her head already, man.
And they're not because I was thinking I have an investment coin that I think my uncle...
No, they're all made in China, and I think the silver ones seem to be somehow just spray painted silver on there.
Oh, I see.
Not with the spray paint that you get at the hardware store, but just on there, and then it's a permanent coating.
Because I still have a 1 troy ounce silver coin. I think it's worth like $30 or something.
No, this one I paid $1 for 30 coins. They all say, like solid gold on there, even the silver and the copper ones. So that shows you the level of quality I'm getting here. But there's 30 of them, and that way she'll be able to do her counting
Solid
stuff.
gold painted silver.
Yeah, or just briefly chuck down there silver and gold sort of thing. But
Ooh, Electrum.
well, they don't have Electrum per se, but I'm sure if I rub the gold and the silver close enough together, it'll get some rub off.
All right.
But yeah, she seems to like them, and that was my nerdy thing for her, is just to get her in the concept of hoarding coins like some sort of grubby dwarf. Or adventure. Let's face it, they all do it the same way.
I wondered, there might not even be... we recently... Canada recently got different bills.
Oh, yeah, we upgraded to a more plastic style. Apparently, it's less likely to melt if you leave it on the dash of your car during a heat wave. But who leaves a 20 on the dash of their car somewhere?
I guess that's the extreme case, sort of.
The extremely stupid case.
Yeah, more common would be washing it in your dry or putting it in your hot dryer.
I've been told they're a little more resistant to washing and drying.
Okay, well that's good.
Right.
But I'm wondering if this might be the last batch of actual cash money that's ever made.
Well, the thing about cash is that you have the benefit of it being there if the electronics go out. If you're at a place and, oh no, your bank's systems have gone down, and that happens about once or twice a year. One of the banks loses all its systems for that for a couple hours, like for one business day. Everyone who's using that card is completely up the creek. They got no cash. They are broke. So as long as you have the physical cash, you can take that anywhere that's, exchanges, cash for goods and or services, and you can make that work.
Yeah, but these bills are supposed to last, 10 years or something like that. Because I think the old ones had 1 year of life, and then they basically...
I wouldn't say that. I mean, on my wall, I've got a $1975 bill that was given to me as a tip when I was working.
Okay, maybe not 1 year, but basically, picture 10 years down the road.
They are supposed to last a lot longer and a lot more durable.
Yeah, and do you think we're still going to have 1 day a year where the electronics go down in 10 years? I think technology might.
I think technology will always be at the state of somebody buggering it up, at least for 8 business hours. And it'll likely be the most important 8 business hours of a day. It's not going to go down from 10 at night to 6 in the morning. It's going to go down from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, when people are using it, yeah. Okay, well, I think by the time this particular set of bills, they keep on making them, obviously. Yeah. But basically, my prediction is that they're not going to have to do another redesign of all the Canadian bills. I think this is the last. I think after this, they do something electronic. There might even be a universal electronic card or something. But I won't predict that necessarily. But I think cash money is going away. That's my prediction in 10 years or so.
Well, here's the thing: is I can understand why they're getting rid of the coins. Because it costs so much to print that. But once you get to the bills, it basically costs you the same amount of cash to print a $5 bill as it does to print a $500 bill. Mm-hmm. So the big dollar bills will always be worthwhile. We might lose some of the smaller coins. We might eventually lose up to the 20. But the large bills, they'll still be around because they can still make a decent profit for their value for the government. They will always. Sure. They will never become revenue neutral. It won't cost $510 to print a $500 bill.
Well, you never know. Super inflation, okay. But
in which case, we overthrow the government. Everything goes back. It's 1 cent for an egg. There's your baseline. Pam.
Cool. All right. The apocalypse.
And the new currency.
The Canadian apocalypse. Hey, what's it?
The apocalypse.
Yeah, what's that game that we talked about before? The Canadian apocalypse game.
Canadian apocalypse
from Hinterland Games. The Long Dark. Yeah.
The Long Dark.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is sometimes what we try and fool Americans into, what we call, the extra depth of our winter. Secret thing here I'm going to tell you guys out there. Occasionally, we Canadians try and have some fun with Americans. And we'll come up with like notions like we have like 2 winters. The regular winter, like what America has, and then we have like what we'll call like the long dark or the Canadark, where it's like, like we don't have sun for like 2 months of the year sort of thing. And that's our like double deep winter, and that's why it's so cold up here. And we see which Americans will wind up buying that as we're explaining it to them in the summer when they're up here vacationing. So now have some fun with it. Come up with your own fun ideas about like crazy things to see what you can get weird tourists to believe. You go to Disneyland, all the suits are empty. There used to be people in there, but not anymore. They're all empty. What's in there? I'll let you figure that out. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Dun. Okay.
Yes. We actually have like a potential little concept here for something, a little final bit.
So it's like a main topic.
Well, 15-minute main topic.
The last little bit of it. Okay.
All right. So what was our topic then? Did we lose our topic? Oh, man. Non-standard damage.
Non-standard damage, yes.
Yes. One of the interesting things I noticed as I was reading through my fine-tooth comb reading of 5th edition, because as I'm reading this, the free PDF rules, I'm purposely not just browsing. I'm loading this to full memory, man. I want to put as much in there. And one of the things that really got me was, damage types. They've got your, piercing, slashing, bludgeoning for different weapon types. And then you've got your 5 elemental types. They changed some of the names, but honestly, Thunder sounds at least as properly, pseudo-medieval cool as Sonic.
Yeah. I think it sounds more like, fantasy.
Yeah. Instead of electricity, you've got lightning damage now. And the whole thing works out, at least in concept. Negative energy is now called necrotic. Positive energy is called radiant. And while I'm not big on radiant, I would have personally gone with vivitic energy.
Do they, in Ghostbusters, do they refer to positive and negative energy?
It's more of a protonic energy signatures and all that. I could get some stuff out and show it to you.
Okay, maybe.
But yeah, that's much more of a personal thing on there. But the one thing that really caught me was, poison has a damage type now. And that's one of the things is like, back in like Diablo and all that, poison was, dealt, damage over time stuff. That's what poison damage was. Mm-hmm. It turns you green for a little bit.
Well, and it removes your hit points in D&D. Yeah. Poison is another method, like you can get hit by a sword, lose hit points, or you can get hit by poison, lose hit points. And poison
then you take poison damage.
Yeah, and poison might have like a special effect where every round, as long as you're poisoned, you take another 2 points of damage or something like that.
Well, here the interesting was that while you're under a poison status, you also suffer disadvantage to attack rolls and I believe saving throws. So it's really annoying, which kind of sounds like poison as in like for an adventure type scenario. It's not really potentially lethal. It's just really annoying. And so I found that one interesting, and that got me thinking, it was like, that's kind of weird, you being able to die from poison damage, not just because your constitution was reduced to 0. And then I got me thinking, it's like, constitution reduced to 0, and I had this notion for a really, really evil NPC in 3rd edition. There's a template here, a magic item there, a feat or 2 over in this book, and I wanted to get all the books together, and there's a few splat books I don't have yet. I'll probably wind up picking eventually as other people drop it. I'm saving up my money. I'm going to go hit this used bookstore. So when people drop their 3rd and 4th edition stuff for 5th, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be like that creepy guy that winds up picking up a lady on the rebound. I'm going to be filling out the little books I need for 3rd edition as people drop it to make shelf space.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not ashamed of that fact. I'm proud of it. I'm a used book buyer. But yeah, like if I could get all the stat books together, everything, all the splats, and just get it all up, have a guy, he would wind up like effectively dealing like a stat damage or drain on every stat whenever he hits you. Damage would wind up being something like maybe 1d6 an attack, like absolutely piddling for what would be effectively a 20th level monster to fight.
Okay. Yeah.
But he would drain every one of your stats every time he hits you. So,
it's amusing.
And what's the thing is when you get up to a high enough level, it is a lot easier to take stat damage and die than it is to take, like hit point damage and die. If you're a fighter, you are going to have maybe 300 hit points in 3rd edition. Mm-hmm. But if, you're a fighter at 20th level, you could potentially only have a constitution of about 20, not including additional modifiers from like magic items and all that.
And the monsters might take like 2d4 strength damage per hit or something
Maybe
like that.
we could take off the strength points by a couple points. If you get hit by even... If you got just enough little, well, in this case it'd be like a 15, like hit die creature, against your, 20th thing. So he's just a piddling level minion in this case. Could hit you just for even 2 points of constitution damage. 10 to 12 hits of those is going to drop everybody to dead.
Yeah, and I suppose that, it takes hit points with it too. Yeah. It
takes the hit points down, but, in 2nd edition it was even more lethal. Any stat getting reduced to 0 kills you. And I have the Requiem book, the full box set, and it explains exactly why it kills you. At Wisdom 0, you become like so out of it, you basically don't even have the wisdom to breathe. Intelligence 0, you're brain dead.
Yeah.
Dexterity 0, you are so badly coordinated, your heart doesn't beat properly anymore. And every which stat drops to 0, like at Strength 0, your heart's too weak to beat. Constitution, you're dead. Basically that. Every stat reduced down to 0 kills you. Charisma, you don't even have the force of personality to keep living. You die from a lack of, effectively willpower.
You're that boring of a person.
You literally die of self-boredom.
He bored himself to death.
That was something that could actually happen to you in 2nd edition. I have to double check to see if you can do that in 5th. I might put in a home rule for that just for the fun of it. But it got me thinking, like a very interesting and very, very scary way is non-standard damage types. Magic the Gathering has had poison counters for a long time. You get 10 poison counters, you're out. Whether or not it's allowable, it depends on which blocks are being used and what kind of game style you're playing with.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is a lot of game stuff say only the last 2 sets of expansions that have come out are in play. Anything before that is an illegal card. That way it keeps you from having all the best cards from all the. See, they came out in 90. Yeah, the last 24 years of game.
Although that would be pretty awesome.
You could have some pretty unbalanced infinite combo decks if you're allowing every card in. Even if it's only 4 copies of every card, you can get some pretty nasty stuff. To say nothing of the Type 0, where you could have 60, what was it? It was like a Spectre sort of card, and if there's more than 2 cards on top of it, it comes back into play. So you have 60 of them in your deck. And then new turn, pick up an 8th card, drop 1 in, you don't have to discard because you've got more than 7. And then after the 3rd round, you've got 1 guy coming in. And then at the start of every round, you have rounds minus 2 cards, of these specters in play. And so every, round that starts up, another card has to go into the graveyard, which means, another card, goes up into play. Up into play.
Another combo. So with this, in D&D, do you think this is a strength or a weakness of the whole, the game of D&D, that there are ways to kill your enemies that do not necessarily rely on killing their hit points?
I think it's a very interesting way of going about it. Good for the players. If the players don't want to play a person that kills through, I sliced his head off, then that works. If you want to say, it's like, no, I sucked out his soul and he died from that. Sure, if you want to say
well, it's hard to be a player necromancer though. There's not as many options.
If you're allowed a couple darker shades of gray, it's an interesting way of going about it. Because it's like, I am a learned individual. That's why you must burn. It's like no, I'm playing a learned, scholarly type, not a pyromaniac. Could I please find some way to kill these people in a bit more of a sophisticated manner? And that's why, it's like, I shall prove my intelligence over you by reducing your intelligence score to 0. No one stands against my massive might of brain power.
And that's why it's a problem, though, for players. It's not as great, because players will often be facing off against monsters, and intelligence might not be important for them. I suppose.
That's the thing. In 3rd edition, you could have intelligence 0 and not die.
Yeah.
What you're doing is basically nothing. You're basically just standing around, comatose.
Yeah.
But you're still alive. I remember having a scion actually win the fight against a creature that basically immobilized him because I don't need to move to think. So long as I could keep thinking, I was still as valid a combatant as long as I could see the enemy. And
That's
as long
fun.
I saw
like
the
it.
enemy, and I kept burning him. I was doing the pyro, scion
Yeah.
prestige class.
Very
and
cool.
as long as I could, just oh no, he's falling, falling down, he's paralyzed. Pick him up and aim him. I became the weapon.
That's fun. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I had some notions. I put down some notes afterwards. It's like, what if I just had myself, toss my soul from my body and put that in a magical item sort of thing, whereby I can be effectively used as like a ray gun. I demand, a proper share of the treasure, but you just have to point me. I am the weapon.
So as a player, going with the hit point strategy, being the guy who has a big sword and takes away lots of monsters' hit points, that's almost universal. Almost every monster can be taken down by removing their hit points. Obviously, there's ghosts, but I think, and there's creatures who might have
you can hurt them bad enough.
There might be ones who have regeneration, but that's still hit point based.
You hit them harder then, all the same. You put both hands on the weapon and swing it, and that'll chop them up faster than they can heal.
Yeah. So it seems to me you should at least have a player in your group always, or a player character who's always has that, the fighter, the specialty is taking away the hit point. Maybe it's a rogue or somebody, but yeah.
Well, for me, I mean, I got a little paranoid when I was back in the Diablo days playing, because you go to Nightmare and Hell mode, and there are creatures that are immune to lightning damage. All of a sudden, hey, my sorceress, who is specialized in, just dealing pure lightning damage, is now completely useless.
Yeah.
And then you encounter, oh, this creature is immune to physical damage. And it's like, well, it's a good thing I do a lot of, elemental types with my battle axe, so this way my barbarian is, still slowly whittling away.
Okay, yeah.
And it became just a situation where it's like, if I'm a one-trick pony for what I do for damage, I'm going to encounter a creature I just cannot kill. It is not possible for me to somehow kill it. I have no other trick. And so that taught me the important lesson of breadth as well as some depth. Like if you focus on dealing pure fire damage, for your fire wizard in D&D, and you find yourself in the elemental plane of fire, you may as well be a commoner. You can't kill anything. They're all immune to your one trick. I guess you are now the most expensive hireling in the party, as you get to carry everyone else's gear because you do nothing else. Whee!
I had an idea a while ago, and I never implemented. I don't think I will, but it is an idea that maybe somebody could pick up and run with. But I wanted to do morale points or morale hit points, and basically the character has maybe their charisma same amount of sort of D10 per level plus their charisma modifier, and they would have that many morale points, and then basically spells, anything that caused fear or caused doubt or even a diplomacy check or an intimidate would remove morale points instead of hit points. So that was
in that case, I could lend you some of the second edition stuff. All the monsters had a morale score back then.
Okay.
And you could do that. But here's a concept to run by you. What if the individual like minion creatures don't have morale points? The bosses do. The big bads that are, that they're all around have the morale points. If you can damage enough morale points by hurting the big guy enough, then when those morale points hit 0, the minions flee. You have morale points. Your hirelings will flee if you get too hurt or if you get humiliated or you get smack talked into the ground.
Yeah, it makes sense. But when you lose your morale point, do you flee too? Or
no,
is that
you
another
still
level
stay, but it would apply to whether or not your underlings.
When you're reduced
around.
to 0, I think you'd flee or surrender. Or whatever,
well, that's the thing is you don't want to take free will away from the players, so they can always keep fighting. And you can argue if the person winds up oh, did you ever play any of the Monkey Island games?
No, I didn't.
They had a nice thing with fencing where it's not really about the fencing itself, it's about the repartee in between. And one person would deliver, a jab, and if you get the right retort, it's you block their attack and you stab them. And that's how the whole thing went.
Okay.
And so the best joke I remember out of the whole thing was, one person would make, do a parry thrust as they make the insult. You fight like a milkmaid. And if you got the right retort, you'd block their attack and counter with, how appropriate, you fight like a cow. And so that way you could wind up having, the more intellectual, bards would become a lot more combat-worthy then. They wouldn't necessarily be killing anyone, but they could effectively hit the morale points of the big bads and knock it down to 0 such that the minions flee, and then you don't have to worry about the add-ons. All you have to do is focus on the big guys.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be a very interesting one, and we might want to put a nice little pin in that for a potential splat book notion for an added rule for 5th edition. Because there's people in 4th edition that are going to be unhappy that minions, I don't think, are going to have just 1 hit point.
Yeah. Oh, is that still a thing in 5th?
I haven't seen much at all mentioned about anything like that, but I haven't seen anything mentioned about minions at all.
Well, I liked it in 4th. I didn't think it was appropriate for every single, fight to have a couple of minions, but I thought it was a fine idea for just once in a while.
I always liked it as that's what the fighter spent his lower attack bonus stuff on. He gets 4 attacks. There's very little chance with his +5 bonus on that 4th attack of him actually hitting the big bad. But you know what? He kills 2 minions a turn. 2 pretty good hits against the big bad, and then with his extra 2 attacks, there go 2 minions. Every 6 seconds, I'm killing 2 of your hirelings. And that's a pretty nasty thing to show just how bad arse you are. It's like, you're fighting the big bad, and by the way, I kill these 2 guys too. I do this many attacks, and then it's basically, I kill 1 die 2 minions a turn. But that said, I like the concept of a minion potentially surviving an attack, even if it's like he's just got 1 hit point left. He's survived your nasty attack, Mr. Warrior. Oh yeah, look, you look pretty good that way. I remember back in WoW, my old roommate, he was playing a healer. Oh, party wipes. Everyone's going back, sort of thing. They were just learning the dungeon at the time, so it's just acceptable for a party wipe to happen, even if it's a 5-man dungeon.
Okay.
And he's running back, and he's got his wonderful staff and his wonderful healing gear all on. And, oh, look, there's a little critter, just a little, nonsense critter that was wandering by. And he runs by and he smacks it just to kill, because that's what you do is you run back. It's like, oh, there's a little critter. I slay the critter. And, now I've got some rage points. And then the warrior has some fun with rage points as he's running back to where he needs to be. And he hits it was just like a little toad or something. He hits the toad, and he keeps running, and then he has to stop, looks back. He hit it, but he didn't do enough damage to kill the lowly critter, the level 1 critter. So as everyone's laughing at him over the vent server, he turns back, goes back, hits it a second time, kills it, and then proceeds back on. It's just a fun little circumstance. What were the odds of this tiny level 1 critter surviving an attack by anyone at max level, learning a 5-man dungeon?
Yeah.
So slim, but he just happened to deal the minimum amount of damage so that this poor little thing survives and is in, there. So he turns around, finds the thing, just casts off a little spell. There you go, now you're dead, and then he runs back to do his thing. So I like how, if the minion only ever has 1 hit point, any attack will kill him.
Yeah, but I've never considered it killing, basically the minions basically fall they do the soccer fall, they
all minions are soccer players. They always my knee.
Exactly, yeah. And then except that their opponents aren't quite as merciful as soccer opponents, where instead of getting carried off the field on a stretcher, you get coup de graced. And
I do like some of the stuff they've got in 5th edition about that sort of thing when you're at negative hit points and how things go. But read that up personally to see that. But I do like the potential for them to at least survive. And so you've got this miraculous, he's bleeding heavily, but he's alive. He looks around at his dead companions, laughs despite holding in his own internal organs, and runs away. And then you get that one guy. It's like, it would have been a perfect dungeon run, but that one freaking goblin got away. How much he had? He had 1 hit point left. He basically just managed to run away just by holding his own internal organs in. Otherwise,
he dies later of a wound.
But you didn't kill him. He got out of the dungeon, to spread the word before his organs spread out on the grass in front of him.
Ran back to the goblin hospital, and they're like, "Oh, we're so concerned for you. Let us fix that up."
Oh, I'm sorry, you're not covered for that. I'm afraid we can't even cast a cure minor wounds on there. Sorry.
We can put you in our scientific observation room and you become a new exhibit.
We are willing to just let you sit here in the hallway, and we'll give you some food, and hopefully you'll naturally heal up. We estimate, provided you're not infected, you could have full health in about a half week. I mean, you're only a goblin, 4 hit points. You're at death's door, effectively. So, yeah, I think you could be up at full health by this time next week. Congratulations. The wonders of healing in 3rd edition.
So I guess we should wrap up.
I do very much appreciate the concept of being able to survive at least one attack.
Okay, yeah.
But the concept of a quicker way to kill, it's a very scary way to threaten the PCs every once in a while. Do it very sparingly as a dungeon master.
Yeah, and like I was saying, I think it's more useful in the hands of monsters than in the hands of players.
Yes, the concept of like, oh no, you
or
know,
the
like
plaza monsters.
Yeah, you're in a situation where you're losing 1 point of constitution around from the negative energy coursing through the horrible vortex that's open before you. If you don't get it shut down in time, you will die. How long do you have? Well, how many constitution points do you have? And so that changes the game up just for a little bit, and that puts players on their toes. All of a sudden, they're thinking different ways. They're not like, I got 300 hit points. No. Mm-hmm. No, you got 22 constitution.
Yeah, well, and we didn't go into drowning or like other sort of.
Oh, that's one thing I've always wanted to try in 3rd edition.
Heat stroke.
Well, in 3rd edition, I my Scion in 3.0, he was based off Constitution modifier rather than Intelligence, thanks to what they had allowance for feats there, and so he had his Constitution pumped out the wazoo. This guy was so freaking tough. He had more hit points than most people with a die 8. Just because of the virtue of where he was focusing everything. And it suddenly occurred to me, I got this Constitution score. I could, I could kill a troll by grappling it, tossing ourselves into the water, and then drowning it. Forget the fact that I'm, a pyrokineticist and I could burn it easily. I could hold it underwater with me until it dies, and then I come up for water. And how badass do I come up looking like that? With the corpse of a drowned troll behind me as I just come strolling out of the water. I never got that opportunity. I would have loved to put that scene up there.
I'd like to,
things are working a little differently in 5th edition, but there's oh no, you lose a fraction of your total hit points sort of thing, and then you are dead. So it could wind up be that a dungeon full of water traps would be the equivalent of like a water dungeon in many video games, where you just get so frustrated. It's like, I can potentially die at any moment. This thing is, I'm rage quitting. I'll be back next week, guys. So you have to be careful on that sort of thing. Like the concept of instant death, I mean, there's a reason why they have been moving away from that for the last several editions. The concept of like, oh, and now you're dead, just tossing your character, saving throw. No, there was no saving throw on that.
Yeah, although
dead.
It has always been the stories that people tell about D&D. It's like, remember that time when rocks... I mean, it's not a great story.
Remember that time you fell into the pit trap, except at the bottom of the pit trap there was a sphere of annihilation?
It's not a great story because it's like, and then I died, the end. And it wasn't really an interesting way to die or anything like that. But also, people still tell those
People
stories
tell the cheap death
stuff.
stuff.
Of how, rocks fell on all of us and we all died or something.
Except for the Psionicist who had so many hit points he survived. He wound up starving to death like 4 weeks later, as it turns out. He just couldn't get it. He wasn't strong enough to unbury himself. He had no things to do that. So he wound up starving to death.
Oh boy.
He had like 150, psionic points, and so he was doing that metabolism thing, 3 points a day, but he couldn't get a good night's rest to replenish because he was buried under rocks. So it was the longest, most agonizing death I've ever seen in a D&D game.
Oh my. Well, with that, if you have feedback for us...
If you want a nice little story to tell about how you died through unconventional means in a game,
please write it up and send it to us for our consumption because we desire your souls.
Or at least the souls of your dead PCs through their final stories.
And you can reach us on email at thesimulationist@gmail.com. You can also post to our Facebook page. You can like the page and see updates from us. Usually it's just the show whenever the show comes on. Sometimes there's a little discussion there. We're hoping for it to get a bit more going on there.
And here's a notion for you. The PC is a purely fictional entity. Their only real existence is in the stories they take part in. So therefore, their stories are their soul. Without any stories, they don't exist in any but the most, just absolute metaphysical of concepts. So you write down the stories of your PCs, they exist more than any other PC. They have more soul. It's more definitive, man.
That's true. And
so
if you
send
don't
us
share
the souls of your PCs.
Like a tree that falls
soul.
in the woods, if you don't share it, nobody hears about it. So.
Exactly, and that's why Elminster and Drizzt are so darn powerful. Everyone knows about them. They've heard the stories. They've seen the soul of these characters. Let us know your souls.
That's right. You can tweet at me at SpaceBoot1, SpaceBoot numeral 1 on Twitter, and you can subscribe to our YouTube page too, the youtube.com/thesimulationist. You can leave reviews for us. We love hearing reviews. As many stars as you think we deserve on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcasting application. And I think that's all for the social media. Just hit us up on there. Do we have wrap-up thoughts?
Okay. Against the monsters, I am perfectly fine with atypical damage types. Generally, you're going to be killing most minions at the same speed you wind up killing them through proper hit point damage. And with the concept of ghosts and all that, I've been in adventure campaigns where a lucky turning attempt, and there goes the ghost boss you guys were going to spend the next 7 rounds fighting, maybe to the death. No, you got natural 20, natural this, boom, you just eradicate the ghost. And that's a non-standard damage type, which, by the way, I am looking to see in 5th edition if I can have that replaced with something else. I'm not big on turning the undead. That'd be like, what if a ghost comes around with a turn elf? He walks up, says something, and all of a sudden, boom, the elf blows up. He eradicated the elf. The elf was only a 1 hit die, and so, the ghost was powerful enough to turn elf into mash.
Yeah. Although I like the thought of the ghost coming up and turn halfling, and there's no halflings in the party. I'm a gnome, actually. Oh.
I'm gonna decorporealize and try this with the next party. You guys go on to the next series of fights.
Tell me if you see any halflings.
Oh, thank goodness I rolled up on Munchkin. Woof, that was close.
Pulls off his hat of disguise.
Bluff checks win the day. But yeah, against players, it's much more of a danger sort of thing. So if you want a player who's going to wind up dealing non-standard stuff, if you want to have a dagger that winds up dealing dexterity damage against things, and have the rogue do that. Just make everyone so clumsy, that they trip over themselves and bash their own skulls in as they fall down at dexterity 0. Make it happen. Go for it. It's a wonderful way of making the character so much more unique that way. I've described sometimes weird and wonderful, strange, exotic weapons. Sometimes the weapon can be mundane. How it's used is different, and that's what gets cool. And that is a nice way of making it, provided the character's okay with that. If you want, the guy says, no, man, I gotta have my 10d6 backstab bonus. I want to be the spine remover. That's my rogue's name, man. That's what I want to do with 10d6, man. I just want to do a quick vivisection and remove a creature's spine.
Yeah.
You know what? Fine. Go with that. As long as it kills them, that's what actually happens. You're in a Mortal Kombat in Dungeons and Dragons. Go for it. So long as the mechanics work okay and nothing's going too weird, I say let it happen. But as the Dungeon Master, use it sparingly and only when you want to change things up. Don't do it all the time. Do it every once in a while. Maybe a particular minion it does it that way. Then you're up against this sort of thing. It's we've been poisoned. Well, that's how we know we're fighting drow. Ha ha ha. But you know what? That's actually a thing. You fight drow, you're going to get knocked unconscious through their poison. So long as you can maintain a cohesive style, go with it. Just don't use it all the time. Otherwise, the players are going to get angry or use it back against you.
Yeah.
Everything is a weapon to the proper player. So just be careful.
Sure. Yeah. Because I'm so scared of the players.
There's always some way for them to throw a wrench in your plans.
I suppose. I wish them luck if they want to try.
Yeah. Well, players versus Dungeon Master, there is no winner.
That's true.
But that said...
well, if they can outwit me, I mean, I'm happy with that. Like, if they think of some trick, or if I make a rules exception just because I'm trying to cover something, and they use it against me in the next round, I'm kind of like, okay, you well played, you won that.
I remember a story from Knights of the Dinner Table where they managed to use the concept that a turnip does 1d8 damage to really throw the entire campaign world
they
off.
They dump a turnip truck on someone and
no, they managed to start growing the turnips, and the turnip does it can be used by anyone and deals more damage than the typical weapon, and thus they had a bunch of peasants just throwing turnips at all the monsters and just blowing them out of the water with 1d8 damage times number of successful throws.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be careful. The players, they're in it to win it in many cases. So any leeway you give them, they'll take it. So.
Mm-hmm.
That said, you shouldn't have to be fighting. It should be a cooperative story. So try and keep it that way.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not. It's at the end of the day, we're all friends.
Ideally, you don't want to make enemies doing this. Unless you're doing like an arena type combat situation, everyone gets together to come up with their concept of like, okay, you got like a 4 hit die or 4 class level thing going on here. Let's put them in the arena and fight to the death.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone put $5 into the pot. The last person to survive in the arena winds up getting all the cash.
Nathan, the stakes. All right.
Well, I mean, it's not a true arena if you don't bet in cash on somebody's life.
Okay.
That's how it goes. Yes, you take care out there on the internet and in the future.
Who have we been? I've been Josh Chilevin.
I think I've still been Ryan Kirkley.
And thank you for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. Please send money.